The Notcast, life, love and misery and deep shit.
Do you ever wonder, what the fuck am I doing here? Is this it? Maybe you've got the car, career, house, family and friends, everything that should make you happy. But still, there's this tenacious sense of being trapped, stuck, lost, or just a bit bloody empty. Welcome to the Notcast, where two therapist coaches, aka theracoaches, lay bare their psycho-spiritual journey of struggle, strife, and realization in their soul search for the keys to a happier, more fulfilling life.
Are we on?
We are on and alive.
Okay. Hello, beautiful souls, and welcome to episode 4. Is it episode 4?
5.
Oh, shit!
4 was last week. And again, once again, we're off to a great start. You had one job, Amy. Just one job. Actually, you have several jobs, but right now you had one job.
Can we start again?
No.
Fuck off!
Take 2.
Okay. Hello, beautiful souls, and welcome to episode 5.
I'm not taking it out, by the way. I'm leaving it in. Just so you know.
Why do you say that to me when I'm trying to say the title?
For this exact reason.
You're an arse.
I'm good at it. Sorry, you were saying?
Sorry. Hello, beautiful souls, and welcome to episode 5 of the Notcast. Why am I not happy yet? 3 bullshit myths that keep you stuck in the shitstorm of misery.
Yay.
Yay. So, buddy.
Hello.
Hello. Happiness.
Happiness.
What is happiness to you?
What's happiness to me? That was the question I did ask myself, which is useful, really. Although it would have been useful probably if I'd have looked at my answers before you asked me that question. Happiness to me is a few things, I think. It's connection. It's having a sense of purpose, or being on purpose, I guess. Like being purposeful with what I'm doing.
Mm-hmm.
And it's being okay with who I am and where I am right now. And I guess the story that I've got about my life.
I really like that. That was really lovely. Thank you.
More than welcome. What's happiness to you?
Happiness to me. Happiness to me is lots of small things. I actually just forgot what happiness was for me. Oh dear me. Oh dear me. Okay. I had it in my head and then it went. Oh.
It's funny you say that though, because I did have to ask myself, like we talk about happiness all the time, right? And when I was like, what does happiness mean to me? I was a bit like, that's a really good question. I don't normally ask myself that question. And I had to sit with it for a while to see what bubbled up. And when those things came up, I did think, like, is that it? Is that what it is to me? Like, I'm not sure I have previous experience to compare this to. Of asking that question, I mean.
Yeah. I guess the main thing that happiness is for me is knowing that I'm always okay, no matter what happens. Like there's this underlying kind of, no matter what I go through, I know I'm going to be okay. Mm. And that seems to have added this kind of state of being okay with myself, okay with the world, okay with other people, and knowing that I get to choose like the stories I tell myself. I get to choose how I feel. And it is the little things in life for me, which is happiness. Like my tomato plant brings me so much happiness, fills me with joy.
What's his name again? Ronnie or something?
Tommy.
Tommy. Close enough.
No, that wasn't.
Well, as long as you don't tell him, it'll be fine.
Energetic. Yeah. But it's the little things. It's like watching a sunset and being present. It's watching the sunrise and being present. It's eating my favorite food. It's doing shit like this. It's the okayness of always knowing that I am always connected, always loving. And I know that happiness is always available to me. Like nobody can take it away from me. It's mine, and I can have it whenever I want.
Well, it's interesting you say that. That makes me think, because I'm like, when you say that, I wonder, like, is that true? Like, I know technically, like, theoretically it's true, but I think, is happiness always available to me? I think technically presence is always available to me. But then do I always have conscious control over getting present enough to see that? I don't think I personally do. I'm not saying that doesn't that means it's impossible.
That's interesting, because I'm kind of reflecting on this year and the experiences I've had this year, and being in the midst of like a shitstorm, which for all the intents and purposes was a stay, like being in misery. But I think this is like one of the first times in my life that I was still able to access that space of not everything it looks like that. So I could still be in spaces where I was happy and everything didn't become about that one thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I get what you're saying about presence, because I think it's taken me being present and kind of allowing myself to know and recognize that I can only be here right now. Right? Like whatever's happened, like happened, but I can only kind of respond to what's going on every day. And like a couple of years ago, I probably would have said that it's shit, and I you know, in that space, I would never access happiness, but I did. So I guess my views kind of changed on it slightly. But yeah, interesting.
It's interesting you're talking about that and about the shitstorm, because I think, I mean, I went through a tough breakup not too long ago, and it was interesting in a way going through that, because previously when I'd been through breakups, I remember like some of them it was like the world was ending. But then I saw the world a very different way, and this time when that happened, like there were points where it was, I was just sad and even quite, I don't know, distraught's probably a bit strong, although I probably was at points. But there was this lower level of like, I'm going to be okay and I'll get through this. And what I noticed was it didn't then, what's the word I'm looking for? That didn't become the story of my entire life. Like that didn't then affect all those other things in my life, like work and friends and, and how I felt about myself and how I feel about myself. Like those things weren't touched by that as such. Whereas in the past, I think they had been. Like my head was a lot more of a negative place, but it wasn't so much that my head was negative, and that's not what it looked like. Sorry, it was, the world looked like more of a battleground. my metaphor was like life's a battle. And that used to come up all the time. Like it was such a fight. And of course, if the world looks like that, it's very difficult to be happy, or at least have any prolonged sense of happiness. So I can find I might be able to find relief or moments of happiness. I don't know. Well, I probably wouldn't have found it in a sunset. I'd probably more have found it in a drink or something like that.
Whatever works.
Well, exactly. But yeah, the story was different because of how I saw the world and how I saw myself. And what I saw going through this breakup was, even though that part of it was shit, and in those moments it was really shit, the story about the rest of it wasn't.
Yeah. There was still goodness in the shitness.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, what's your first myth?
My first myth, well, obviously, as always, my first myth is actually what I just spoke to, which is just because something difficult is going on doesn't mean you can't still feel happy. Mm-hmm. Just because you're in the middle of a shitstorm doesn't dictate that you have to be a certain way all of the time. And I guess you spoke to it in a really lovely way. It's like the story, I feel, is what, well, I got caught in. That's what I used to get caught in all the time. So it was like one thing's going on, then everything in my life is shit.
Yeah.
And then almost I think I used to put on myself that obviously if that one thing is shit, then I should feel shit. Like I should feel miserable. I should feel upset. And so I didn't have the right to feel anything other than shit because I'm in shit. Right? So I guess what I've learned through this last year in particular is actually I can find the okayness. I can find the happiness. I can, one thing or one area is challenging or causing pain. It doesn't mean that has to seep into every other area all of the time, and it doesn't have to seep into everything that I am.
Yeah, when I think about, for me over the last couple of years, I suppose the big thing that's changed for me is because I see it at a deeper level now that for me it's all about perspective. And so before it looked like the world was a shit place. It really looked like I wasn't capable of changing certain things. Hence why it looked like life's a battle. Like I'm just not good enough to deal with this battle. So in a way I was often looking for, I guess, from escape from that. Whereas that's really changed for me in the last couple of years. So now when things are difficult, like I can wake up and feel shit, but it's like it doesn't hold the same weight it does. Like it doesn't, just because I'm having a shit day, like I know that doesn't mean my life is shit. It doesn't even mean that that's going to last for, because I've had so many experiences of feeling shit when I wake up, but then getting up, stretching, getting present, going for a run, coming back and going, oh, I feel a lot better now.
Yeah.
And so I'm less likely to believe, if any bullshit's coming up, because it's like, I call it shit tinted glasses, right? If I'm feeling shit, a lot of the stuff I'm going to be thinking about probably seems shit. So I'm less likely to believe it now.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's really, because that used to happen to me all the time. I'd wake up, the whole saying around, I got up on the wrong side of the bed. It's like, that would then mean that my story would become that everything's going to be shit from there on in.
Yeah.
All of it. So I wouldn't even give myself the chance.
Hello, self-fulfilling prophecy.
Yes. 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 Yeah. So that, and it's things like that. I guess it's coming out of the story and knowing that I created that. But that really means that there's a possibility to create something different.
But you know, that was a big insight for me, because before it never looked like a story to me. Like it looked like there's something. It looked like there's something wrong with me. Like I'm not good enough, and that's why life is a battle for me.
Yeah.
And it was when that shifted, and when I started to see, oh yeah, I'm creating this in some ways. And then seeing myself as more capable of changing it. That's when I started to see stuff like that, it doesn't hold as much weight anymore. I mean, don't get me wrong. Like if there was a button I got to press in the morning, good day or bad day, or like good feeling, bad feeling, I'd probably choose the good one, unless I was feeling particularly masochistic. But don't always get that choice, obviously.
Yeah.
Well, I'd like to say that nicely leads on to this, but I'm not sure it does entirely.
Yeah, let's not do that.
But my first one, the first myth for me is you just want to be happy.
Oh.
Because when I hear this sometimes from clients or from people who get in contact with me, and I can't remember ever directly saying it myself, but I know I had this kind of feeling. What I tend to find I just want to be happy comes from is it's actually a reaction. It's actually a magic pill thing. It's like, well, what I hear is I just don't want where I am now. I don't want this shit I've got now. And I've heard that there's this place called happy. And if I can get there, all my problems disappear.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And for me, that kind of speaks to, well, a couple of things. Like, for me, it's what I want to explore when someone's saying, like, oh, look, I just want to be happy. I want to explore, well, what's going on for you now that means you're not happy? Like, what's the problem that you're trying to escape from? And then, well, what does happy look like to you?
Yeah.
What would happiness mean? Because I know years ago I didn't have a conscious idea about what created happiness. I thought happiness was picking up a 10 bag on a Friday night with my mates.
Thank you for that insight.
That's the thing, right? Because it looked like that, but actually, really, what I was enjoying was the time with my friends. Really,
Yeah.
I wasn't really enjoying. Well, I'm sure it probably did have something to do with the marijuana, but I don't think it really was that. Well, because I found this with drink. Like I was, after being a teenager and smoking weed in the park, and then upgraded to drinking beer in the pubs. Well, not beer, but level 2. What I found was I really enjoyed, like, it looked like alcohol in some way was the cause of my happiness, but really it was spending time with my friends and being around people where it was free to just tell people how much you love them and have a good laugh. But that misunderstanding took me to then, sometime later, when I ended up, when I felt shit, when I was alone in my flat, my brain goes, oh, have a drink, that might make you feel better. And funnily enough, it didn't make me feel better.
Yeah. Surprise, surprise.
Exactly.
Wow. Yeah. Just really interesting, because I get that a lot as well from people, clients, and I just want to be happy. And I think I've been there in my life where it's like I just want to be happy, whatever that looks like. Yeah, this attainment of this holy grail of happiness.
Holy grail of happiness.
Oh my goodness. Okay, number 2.
Number 2. What's your number 2?
I am going to go with
Have you got a list of 25 again?
17.
Fucking hell. You had two jobs, Amy. You had two jobs.
If only you could see his face, though. Oh, I love it. I love it. I love it. Okay. You make me so happy.
Ooh, tell me more. Thanks, by the way. I'm saving.
Yeah, I'm just waiting for the thanks. Oh, okay. So, essentially, I'm going to try not to say it in the way that I was going to say it. Yeah, this is the whole thing around my happiness comes from outside of me. Other people make me happy, you make me happy, this person makes me happy, that thing makes me happy, my car makes me happy, my house makes me happy. If I'm in a relationship, I'm happy. Yeah. It's all bollocks.
Basically.
Basically. And don't get me wrong, I have spent most of my life so far in that space of, you know, if only I had this person or this thing or whatever, then I would be happy. And the feeling that if, you know, this person's not in my life or this isn't in my life or this thing's not in my life, then I can't be happy. And I guess that only ever meant that I didn't control my happiness. That it was outside me, which meant that if somebody had the power to give it to me, then they also had the power to take my happiness away. Which meant that obviously then I'd be really, really unhappy because I'd feel like I could never be happy again because somebody took my happiness away from me. But also meant that I let go of the responsibility of making myself happy because obviously I couldn't make myself happy. It was outside of me. So if somebody outside of me makes me unhappy, then I'm not responsible for how I'm feeling or what I may do in that state.
Yeah, makes sense. Well, do you know, that was it's similar, if not exactly the same, to my second one.
Ooh.
Which is the myth is happiness comes from outside of you or the future.
Yeah, there you go.
Well, and the story that came to mind was actually another drug story.
Joyous.
Well, there was this, and like I didn't fully understand this back then, with what I understand now, but I know it always stuck in my mind as like that's really fucking interesting. So a regular thing that we do when we were like 16, it was like all meet up, we'd get whatever it was, like an eighth of solid, or we'd plan to get an eighth of solid, and we'd sit in the park and we'd get stoned of a Friday night because that's what we did because we were dirty greebos. We were too young.
Just way too much information. Save me.
I'm not going to get arrested for it now. But yeah, I mean, we were stoners, we weren't drinkers, and you know, we were. That's what we did. But of course, what could happen in these situations was, for anybody who doesn't know, in an ideal world, you go, you ring your dealer and you say, "Can you meet me in this time, and I'll get these drugs," and you pick up the drugs, and it's like great, everybody has a fun time.
Excellent.
What actually often ends up happening is, I've tried to get hold of so-and-so and he's not picking up. Oh, okay, all right. Do you know anyone else? And then everybody's like, oh, I know this guy, I know this person, I know this person. And then it's like slowly going down the list of people you know less and less. There's like this mate you know who's got this mate's dog's uncle you heard of once, who may or may not still be selling stuff, but he's a bit dodgy, but we'll check out anyway. All that sort of bullshit. Anyway, this one night, we're all really like geared up for it. No pun intended. And everyone's really happy. Right, everyone's really happy that we're going to pick up, and then as it like it suddenly starts to dawn on us that it's not going to happen. Like everybody's going down their phones, and oh no, so and so's not picking up, and yeah, they're saying it might be tomorrow. And I watched the mood drop, and it was like shit, oh, fuck's sake, that's our night ruined. And then suddenly, someone gets a text going, oh, so and so can get some. And everybody perks up again and they get really, really happy. And like the conversation lifts. And I'm there and I'm like, oh shit, there are no drugs here. We're still totally sober. and suddenly everybody's happy and having a laugh again. That's fucking weird. Well, it's not weird anymore, obviously. Don't see that as weird anymore. But I did back then. I was like, oh, so this is how much power the drugs can seem to have, but it's not. It's our thinking about the drugs. Mm-hmm. We think we need the drugs to be happy, and when we don't get the drugs, we're unhappy. But then just by the message, we're going to get some drugs. It's like everybody perks up again.
I love that story. Thank you so much for sharing that. I'm sure it was very educational for our listeners.
So you say you love it. You're also slightly horrified by the looks of things that I would share a story about drugs.
Do I look horrified? Don't even say anything else. I just know it. Oh my God. Oh, but I love that story though. And yeah, when you see it though, right? When you finally see it and it makes sense and you're like, oh shit. Like, I have that available to me whenever I want it. Like, it's not some thing out there that I have to, it's not a reward-based thing. It's not a, if you're good, then you get to be happy. It's like, or if you do this, then you get to be happy. Yeah. I think once that makes sense, life kind of shifts.
Well, I saw it some years later when I was into drinking and going out drinking. Well, actually, this was at a point where I'd stopped drinking, but I was still going out with drinkers, basically, and on pub crawls. And I think I was on a pub crawl, actually, because everybody was absolutely twatted, and I was following them around sober. And everybody was like, hey! And in a good vibe, the energy's up. And we walked into this place, and it was dead. Right, it was absolutely dead. And everybody goes up to the bar, and they're sort of standing around, and everybody kind of goes a bit quieter. And of course, I'm stood a bit back, and I see what's happening. And I'm like, oh, well, this makes sense. They're going quieter because the place is dead. Because like if you go into a bar or something, and it's when it's too busy, it's uncomfortable unless you're absolutely in your face. But when it's got that, it's nice when it's got a nice buzz because there's an energy there, right?
Yeah.
Well, this place did not have that, and probably because everybody was fucking slaughtered, and it was 8 o'clock, and like the place didn't get busy till 10 or 11. So they're all there, and everybody's going quiet, and they're all like starting to stand around and like phase out a bit, and then someone goes, "Should we get some shots?" Yeah, let's get some shots, right? And then they all perk up again, and in that moment, that's when I saw it again. I was like, oh shit, this is what happens. Like they think the energy's dropped, and they think, oh, it's the alcohol. The alcohol makes the difference. It's not. Someone's gone shots, and now they've got something to like bond over and to get excited over, and it's nothing to do with that. That was when I saw that, I was like, that's mad, man. That's mad.
Yeah. I think watching it is quite interesting. Watching it is quite interesting because really good at kidding ourselves, right?
Well, it looks like it, doesn't it? I never saw it until I wouldn't have. I've been caught up in that many a time, and I would have. If I hadn't have been sober and in that position, like I wouldn't have seen that play out. If I was one of the drunk guys, as I have been plenty of times, I would have also been caught up in that. I would have thought that the lack of buzz was to do with something else, and that shots were the reason to, it was the alcohol would have made the difference. But it wasn't that at all.
Yeah, I get that. Because that's what I used to do when I used to go out drinking. It's like, I need to feel happy, and the drink's going to make me happy. Although ultimately made me quite miserable, to be fair. I'm sure it ended up with crying. But still, in my head, the fantasy was I was going to be really, really happy. And inevitably, somebody sat on the edge of the curb crying at the end of the night, right?
Yep.
That's what it's like. However, it is a really strong... Well, I guess it's really conditioned, right? So it's a strong story. Like, I know that I still fall into it. And then there's moments I'm looking at myself and I catch it and I go, oh, okay, that's what we're choosing today.
Well, especially for me, something like alcohol, because I do think there is with alcohol, it does change your brain chemistry. And something I found um, when I was big into drinking in my mid-20s, I did notice, like, after a couple of drinks, it was like my head got quieter.
Yeah.
And then I just got this nice warm buzz, and I was then excited about seeing my friends. Well, what I realise that now is that's like I've just let all the thinking go, all the negative thinking, and what's coming up is now like the ability to feel love and presence, basically. But of course, the danger then with alcohol is at least this is, I do think it is. I don't know whether it is a thing with alcohol exactly. I don't know enough about the kind of like neurochemical stuff, but there was always something in me that would go, let's have more of this. Let's have more of this. And so then, it would go from that place of, oh, well, my head's a bit quieter and now I'm free to love my friends. Do I want to get absolutely obliterated? Because that was chasing the magic pill, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Love this. I think we should do an episode just on that.
We'll do an addiction episode.
I was thinking more an episode of just talking about nights out.
All right, I see.
On our search for happiness.
Oh, that could end badly, that episode. Might have to be a few episodes in and maybe a few drinks in.
Yeah, I'd say so. Okay. Number 3?
Go for it. What's your number 3?
Life is not a fucking fairy tale and there is no fucking happily ever after.
Wow. Bleak. In case you were hoping for that light at the end of the tunnel, Amy has just smashed the shit out of the tunnel.
No,
Bye-bye.
I'm here with a lot of love.
You're stuck down here forever. Bottom of the well. Might as well give up now. Crunch down on the cyanide pill. Good night.
No, fuck off. Seriously. Okay, the reason I say that, and I say it in the way that I say it, because that kept me stuck for such a long time. This elusive search for this one space and time in life where there's just going to be... Because happily ever after, for me, meant that I was on this search for this space where I was just going to be happy. And that was what should, in inverted commas, happen. Because that's what life should look like. Okay, that it's a fairy tale and it's beautiful and it's always going to end in happiness. And the fucking disappointment, time and time again, where I got to a point where it's like, am I the only fucking person that's never going to have this happily ever after situation? Am I just not worthy enough? Do I not deserve it enough? Was fucking miserable.
I bet. Did you grow up watching a lot of Disney?
No. Well, I probably watched some Disney. Actually, it was Bollywood films because they're very, it's this whole unrequited love and the beautiful ending at the end and it's musical and it's just, that kind of thing.
Well, I was watching or listening to something and they pointed out, like, it always stops at the point that they get married, and they say, and they lived happily ever after. There's never like a movie about after they've just got married and after the honeymoon period and when they're trying to sort out all their shit.
Yeah, and I guess that's part of it, right? Because none of the struggle is seen. A fairy tale is a fairy tale for a reason, and I feel like a lot of people feel that. I know I've worked with people, I know I've spoken to people where it's like, yeah, there's some elusive place you get to someday when I retire or I this or I get the yacht or it's like, then I'll be happy. Then I'll be happy. Yeah, I wasted a lot of time on that. I could have just been happy. I could have just been happy.
Well, because what I hear in that is if you're measuring where you're at now against this happy ending, I imagine that you fell short quite a lot, if not all the time.
Yeah. And why would I want it to be at the end? Why wouldn't I just want to be happy where I am right now? Why would that be the ending? Right? It's just like, so it kind of held me. And I feel like people I speak to with sometimes and clients and stuff, it like holds them. It held me in this kind of space of, that's where I need to get to. That will mean success, or that will mean that I did the right thing, or that will mean that, I don't know, life worked for me because I got to this space of happily ever after, this existence of just happy, which sounds awful to me now. Like, if I could only ever feel happy and never feel anything else, I kind of like having this beautiful rainbow of feelings that I feel, because I appreciate the happy a lot more because I've let myself feel the sadness and the unhappiness. And also, it's not a pick and mix. So, if I don't let myself feel one thing, I ain't going to feel the other thing either.
Yeah.
And it's just, being okay with all of my feelings and allowing myself to just be happy as I am right here, right now, like loving myself enough to allow myself that, to just be what I am. Yeah.
That kind of leads on to my third one. Actually, secretly, I had 4, but I realised that 2 and 3 were pretty much the same. So,
Ooh.
but our podcast, we're allowed to break the rules, and it's not 17. So my third one, the myth is you should be happy all the time.
Yeah.
Which kind of really, it talks to the same kind of thing that you were talking about. For me, I think I had this idea that happiness was this place where I'm just floating on a cloud forever. Yeah. And, it makes reality pretty fucking disappointing if that's the standard, because then anything that's not that is wrong and bad.
Terrible.
Yeah, exactly. And, exactly to your point, like, I always said, like, sad music sounds better when you're sad.
Yeah, I agree. I fully agree. Yeah, I wouldn't want to listen to it when I'm happy. Yeah, no, yeah, completely.
But see, I do listen to sad music when I'm happy, and I think because I do hear it differently. But like when I think about when I've gone through breakups and I listen to certain songs, I'm like, oh man,
yeah,
I really hear that. Like, yeah. And in some ways it's like not good because it's almost, as my friend Wayne like gestured to me, it's like aural masturbation in a way.
Thanks.
Listening to sad music when you're sad to just like keep going over it. But I think like jokes aside, yeah, when I've been sad and I hear certain harmonies or certain like the lyrics, certain compositions, it's like, yeah, I really feel that on a different level because of where I'm at. And like I said, I'll still really appreciate the song when I'm happy, but I hear it differently. And would I really want to get rid of that? That as an ability? Would I really want to get rid of like the possibility that I might never hear that again, or just erase the fact that I, even got a memory or an experience of that? No, I don't think I would, because that for me now I realise is all part of being human. And I think I realise that now because I know sad feelings don't mean I'm broken, sad feelings can't kill me, and I'm not stuck in the sad feelings forever. Now I'm more free to experience them. I wouldn't say I would say like to love them. I wouldn't say that I love being sad when I'm sad, or love being depressed when I'm depressed. I'm sure there's a possibility of getting there. Maybe one day I'll achieve that. But before I get there, just knowing that it's easier to accept that it's okay to be there, and that I won't be there forever, and that feeling those things allows me then to be able to feel happy. Because I don't know whether you talked to this or you just alluded to it, but something I definitely experienced, like before I got into therapy and really got into personal development properly, I didn't realise I was very cut off from my feelings.
Yeah.
And I think that was because it was a defense thing. It was like, I can't handle my feelings, so I do everything I can to avoid them and kind of cut off conscious awareness to them. But I know they've done studies with people with paracetamol, and they found that, like, people with paracetamol, for example, when they take it, they actually get more rational because it doesn't just dampen pain, it dampens the emotions.
Got it.
And when I read that, it really spoke to me because I realised, oh shit, so yeah, no wonder if you cut off feelings, you don't just cut off the negative ones, you cut off the positive ones. And this, for me, then explained why, you know, I was never the person to be like, oh, I'll have one chocolate bar. It was like, I'll have 5. Or it's like, could just put a little bit of marijuana in the spliff. No, let's just fucking pack it. Should we just have one drink? No, let's have the entire fucking bottle. I want to really fucking feel it.
Oh, love that. I love that. Yeah, that. Exactly that. Right there.
But that for me, it comes from not being like, because I was not in touch with my emotions. I wasn't, you know, I was spending a lot of time avoiding them. So it's like it had to be 110% before I would feel it. Whereas now I think because I'm not so scared of them, I'm therefore more in tune with them. Like when it's a 1 or a 2 or a 3 or a 4, I'll sense it. Whereas before it's like, no, it's got to be at least 110 or something before I'm even aware of it.
Yeah. Absolutely. Love that. And it is. I think that's the thing. It's not a pick and mix, people. You can't just have one and not have the other one.
Well, you can have a go.
Yeah, you could try. I mean, I tried. For most of my life, I tried.
Well, I don't know about you, but I know what I've found. You get this paradoxical thing where it's like, when you stop fighting the bad emotions, when you stop trying to control it so much, and you become more accepting, funnily enough, the bad ones tend to be less intense. They hang around for not as long, and then you get to, you know, you actually in a way you seem to have more control. I wouldn't necessarily call it control, but you seem to have more control over it. You seem to have more influence over letting go of the bad ones and finding the good ones when you're actually trying less to control them.
Yeah. I'm kind of thinking about what my year's been like this year and the range of feelings and emotions that have arisen. And it's like really surprised me because, in one day I've gone from like total, utter despair to just laughing my fucking head off at the other side of it. But it's because I allowed it to just happen. Like I just let go. And it's like, okay, so the despair's going to sit here for a bit. What's it going to do? Like, what's it going to do? What can it do to me? It's a fucking feeling.
It's going to despair you.
It's going to despair of me for a little while. It's going to be like... And I think that's the thing, right? There's this, like, monster. People think it's like a monster. I used to think it was like a monster. It's like, oh my God, I can't engage with the sadness because the sadness might just consume me. But yeah, letting it just happen, letting go, surrendering to it, and being okay with whatever feeling is there. Because I know that they're coming from within me. And yeah, they're going to go. It's going to change. It's not, it's when I fight it and resist it that actually it hangs on. Because then it hangs on for, like it will resurface 2 years down the line, the next time I feel like that.
Yeah. Well, a big insight I had at some point was that a lot of the negative or difficult feelings I was feeling was actually, it was really the fear of them. And it was the resistance to them because of that fear.
Yeah, absolutely.
And when I saw that and then was able to, when I realised there was nothing so much to be scared of and allowed them in, my relationship with them really changed. Like I remember in my last relationship, it was quite tough, and there were points where I was still really down about the whole thing, and I felt, what I'd call some level of depression at points. But what was really interesting was when I'd been depressed before then, I mean, it could absolutely fuck me really, really badly, and I could be knocked out for fucking ages. Whereas when it happened during that relationship, I don't know, I I was more accepting of it. I just sort of allowed it to be there. And don't get me wrong, like if I could have turned it off, I probably would have done. I definitely would have done. But because I knew it couldn't hurt me, I just didn't believe the stories that were coming up when I was in that mindset so much. Like I knew on a lower level, even though I might have these horror stories and there's this going to happen, this, and I'll feel shit and all that bollocks. It was like, there was this just lower level of, I know I'm going to be okay. I know this will pass because it has done. And so I didn't fight it so much. And so funnily enough, I didn't dip down as deeply and it didn't last as long. And there would be points, whether I'd have a connected conversation with someone or I get present with something else, even if it was like doing my emails, and then I'd be like, oh, I feel better now. Interesting. Because I hadn't been so focused on it and trying to get away from it or fight it in a way.
Yeah. Yeah. And therein is the secret for me. Therein lies the secret for me. Because I had that experience this year. Yeah, for sure. It's like that resistance, that fighting it, that trying to do everything that I could to not feel certain feelings, drink and all that, you know, as you do. The resistance was painful. And the resistance was the pain. And once I let go of the resistance, and actually I experimented, so I was quite intentional with it. I was quite like, okay, so this is where I'm at. I know there's going to be a shitload of feelings going on. If I just let go, what's going to happen? I just surrender to all of it and just let whatever feeling is coming up, just let that feeling happen.
Death and destruction and misery and the end of the world, oblivion.
Yeah, it didn't happen because that's what I thought would happen.
Shh, don't tell them. Spoil the surprise.
But yeah, it was a really interesting experiment.
Yeah.
You know, it was a really interesting experiment, and it was intentional, and it made so much difference. And I think that's the thing when you're going through something difficult. It's like, I know that I can be intentional in how I approach it, how I respond to it, how I am being the story I'm telling myself. And yeah, it wasn't anything like I ever imagined it to be. And the feelings would kind of dissolve. I would feel it, acknowledge it, see it, and then it would dissolve and then, you know, turn into another feeling.
Yeah.
And actually, it was really quite beautiful to be in that space in a way, because it showed me the depth of what I'm able to feel as a human being.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So we've done our 3 each on happiness. Any other thoughts on happiness?
Yeah, I didn't bring love so much into this episode, so it's going to have to come up at some point, right? Yeah.
So you bring love up by just pointing out the fact you haven't brought love up so you can bring love up. Very cleverly done. Fucking therapists, man.
No, love all of the feelings. Like, they're yours. They're your feelings.
Well, they are you.
Yeah, that's the thing, right? They are you. And allow yourself to feel. Experiment. And if anybody does experiment, let me know how it goes. What about you? Any wise words to leave us with?
Oh, that's an expectation.
Yeah. Set you up there.
Cheers, mate.
It's a pleasure.
2-1. Closing thoughts on happiness. I think for me it's about the story. It's about the story we tell ourselves. I think that's going to be my closing thought. Do you know what? I don't even know where I was going with that. It made sense, and then I lost it. I have no wise words. My wise words are that I don't have any wise words on happiness.
I love that.
I think I've said everything I wanted to say. So let's leave it there. Episode 6. 5.
6.
Fuck's sake. All right, 2-2.
Yes.
To be continued.
You've been listening to the Notcast podcast, Life, Love, Misery and Deep Shit with your TheraCoach hosts,
Amy Dave.
and David Bird.
Amy is a transformative spiritual and self-love coach and therapist who takes people on a powerful journey towards self-love and personal transformation. She empowers her clients to discover the truth of who they really are, their true purpose, and the truest expression of themselves, whilst enabling them to navigate life and its challenges with ease, grace, and above all, love. Create relationships that rock their world and let go of the toxic shit that holds them back. You can connect with Amy on her Facebook at facebook.com/amy.dave11. That's AMI.DAVE.11.
David is a transformative coach and hypnotherapist who guides his clients on a journey of self-exploration and transformation to smash the shit out of their mental stumbling blocks and send their emotional baggage packing, helping them to get back in the driver's seat, create a more powerful, loving connection to life, and unleash onto the world their bright, shining light of authentic give-a-fuckness. You can connect with David at his website, dbch.co.uk. That's dbch.co.uk.
The Notcast.